There we go. Okay. So hi, everyone. So in a continuation of our series about creating the best you, we're talking to Dan Mangena this afternoon, all the way from Mexico. And I met Dan a few years ago at a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat. And Dan is the author of 4 books and 3 co-authored books, and another one coming out with Jack Canfield shortly, Successonomics. I had to practice saying that a few times. Dream Dan, which is his new nickname. So Dream with Dan is his company and his coaching and his ideas on prosperity and his intention. So the intention is beyond intention is the name of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's just so much in it that you offer. And I've been following you since we met for a while and done some work with you, and just think I love the way you think. And I would love it if you would share some of your ideas on prosperity and the way you think about things, and any practical tips to help people kind of get centered into what prosperity means, because it's not all about money. It's kind of about everything in your life, and including your mindset. So go.
Okay, well, thanks for having me anyway. I love that you've taken time out. You're not like got nothing to do, you've got stuff to do, but you're still taking the time out to share the prosperity of your experiences and your relationships with people to support them. So that's amazing. I mean, what I believe everything comes down to is recognizing that as humans, we operate at different levels of density simultaneously. Right. You know, you get people that, like you said, they think it's just about the money or working hard or even working smart, but working. And then on the other hand, you've got people that they think it's just about sitting around in lotus position, oming all day. And some people that think if they just keep reading, maybe that things are going to change. But ultimately, we have a physical body that moves through time and space. We have thoughts that are not part of that physical construction that have an impact on what we're able to do. And then we have an emotional field, which can be measured, but does have an impact on what we think. So we've got these different aspects of ourselves that come together to make us as a whole. And it's only when something clicks into what I call alignment with each of those things that we have an outcome. So when we look at prosperity, prosperity is being in a state whereby what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and what we're doing creates space for us to have more choice in what we experience. And that for me is what prosperity and abundance is all about.
That's beautiful. And that's very concise as well, isn't it? You know, because for me, that prosperity includes very much my freedom and my ability to create choices, you know, and prosperity is that, but all that alignment comes together because in your relationships, in your families, how you speak to people, how you interact with people at work, at home, family, all the rest of it. So it kind of underlines everything.
For sure. And I teach about an idea that I call bleed theory that reminds us that the separation between these aspects of ourselves, these aspects of our life, these aspects of reality, it's illusionary because ultimately everything is the same primordial gloop. But when light hits that primordial gloop from different angles and we perceive it through different lenses, we see separation, but that's just a story. So how we relate to others shows up in how we relate in our finances and how we relate to ourselves. The commonalities between those relationships, between those connections, always will show up consistently. I think it's T. Harv Eker that says how we do one thing is how we do everything. How we show up in one area will be reflected in how we show up in other areas too.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it? You know, and certainly with your behavior and the daily habits that you have, be they good or not so supportive.
Not so good.
Not so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of those things tied together. So with Beyond Intention and kind of the first book that you wrote, you know, so many different things. Like I haven't got through the whole thing yet, but it's interesting because even just beyond intention implies that there must be an action in there somewhere.
Definitely. There's a couple of entendres, double, triple, or quadruple around that, because it speaks to needing to move beyond just setting an intention, but it also speaks to my vision for a world where we don't need to set intentions, and I'll explain that. For me, an intention is a disruption of whatever momentum or pattern that we're on. For me to want to disrupt something, to have a desire to disrupt it, it means that the pattern itself isn't what I want. So when my unconscious programs, my narratives, my stories are leading me on a path that I want to course correct, and I do that via an intention, a
Yeah.
disruption of intention. But when things are rolling out as I desire them to, I no longer need to set intentions. So I'm beyond the need to set
Yeah.
intentions. So the beyond works moving into it and also moving out of it at the same time.
So where would you start? Like if you're thinking in terms of bringing that freedom and those choices and that prosperity into your life with an intention, beginning like, because earlier in the series we talked about core values and the things that kind of understanding how you tick, and kind of what drives you to move into intention or to create action, or what helps you to be clear on which direction you want to go or what changes you want to make in your life. And they don't have to be massive things. Sometimes the smallest step can have the biggest impact.
Yep.
And it's just kind of finding, for a lot of people, I think, that starting place, which, coming from a place at the moment where things are under stress for a lot of people. But in the middle of all that stress at the moment, there's also an awful lot of opportunity for change, because we've never kind of been in this environment before. So all of a sudden we're finding people are shifting jobs and finding, not by choice sometimes, but actually sometimes that's quite a big gift for a lot of people, because they probably never would have done that had this hadn't happened. And now this is provided, in that hallway. People talk about, one door closes, another one opens. But it's the hallways that are the bitch.
Exactly.
So kind of going from one to the other, like, what kind of steps would you kind of start with?
I think it comes ultimately down to, so that beyond intention as a model is 4 steps: accept, clear, gratitude, and listen. And ultimately, all of this is built on the singular foundation that I am the author and creator of my life. It doesn't matter what I'm going out to create if I've given the power to create to someone else, or the power to impact my creations to someone else.
Yeah.
So if I'm still in blame, I'm still in waiting for my government or my boss or my mum or my partner or my pension to save me, then I've already given away my power. And therefore, the capacity that I have to more fully, deliberately create my life automatically gets swallowed up in that space. It's swallowed up
Very quickly.
So very quickly. So the very, very first thing is stepping into that place of acceptance of the gift of the power to create. Now, this does mean that we lose the ability to blame. Yeah, it means that we lose the ability to say someone else is responsible, or to say that it can't happen, because now infinite possibility becomes returns to being a part of our potential narrative, because I am the author and creator of my life. The only thing that stands between me and what I create is who and what I am, because that will automatically be reflected in what I create. So that's always step number 1.
Okay, brilliant. And that's actually, I think that's the hard step for a lot of people.
Actually. Oh yeah. But the thing is that when people get stuck with this, so each of the 4 levels of beyond, the 4 steps of beyond intention has got levels of depth to it. And depending on how far somebody wants to go down the rabbit hole, we go down that rabbit hole. But the first point in terms of accept that is irrefutable is this: there is no experience in your life where you are not present, because you are the central thing, you're the central character. There may be people that feature regularly, but there's only one thing. If we make this, somewhat mathematical, don't ask me to do any more maths, but we'll do this one. I am the common denominator in every experience in my life. So if I'm the common denominator, if I want to affect change in my life, the most logical place to start is with me, because I'm the only thing that's present in every aspect. So whether or not I want to go all the way to the end of accepting full responsibility, even if I start there, it creates so much more space for change, because changing me must change everything else in my life. So it becomes about me rather than trying to change other people, places, and things.
Yeah. And it's interesting because that taking responsibility and self-responsibility is quite a huge thing at the moment, isn't it? When we look at people's kind of levels of health that they're in and the states that people in, and certainly, with the pandemic going on at the moment, it's highlighted the need to take responsibility for your own health, because, the first world countries are very unhealthy, which is why they've been hit so hard. And it's interesting that you can't blame somebody else for that, because nobody is forcing you to feed yourself anything you don't want to eat, for one thing, or forcing you to sit on the sofa. All of those things. So self-responsibility, not blaming other people for other things that aren't where they should be really in your life. That's a big thing, to be able to let go of that. And I think also, oh God, what was the thing I was just thinking about? It's just got right out of my head. Just on that theme of blame. It's gone. It'll come back.
It'll come back.
It'll come back
when it's perfect. Yeah, it'll pop back in. But yeah, basically, blame is an insidious space that saps our personal power and cuts us off from actually stepping into more of who we are, cuts us off from stepping into more of our personal power, cuts us off from stepping into more love, more wholeness, more connectivity, more happiness, more joy, because the shadows of other people, I say it again, the shadows, so they're not actually the real instigator of the disruption. It's us actually pulling their energy back in, because it must still flow through us in order to create that. If somebody's a butthole or toe rag, it's still my choice to accept that energy into my reality that allows it to impact my reality. If I let it go through me and past me, then it has no impact. So
yeah, and it's interesting. What I was thinking of before with the self-responsibility thing is that, there are incidents that happen throughout people's lives that they are present for, but it is not, I don't know what the word is, created, or it's something that's happened that it's not their fault it happened. You know what I mean? But the self-responsibility is still there, because you were present for whatever situation has happened. And where your responsibility lies is to pick yourself up and look back on yourself and say, well, it's my responsibility to move myself forward from this. Right? Rather than anchoring myself in that moment. And from now on, I'm going to walk forward carrying 600 pounds of all that bad energy in my life.
I love the way you actually be like the whole Robocop thing, like carrying all the energy.
It's like, but it's your responsibility to do whatever it takes to do your own healing, and detach from the things that are still trying to bleed you from your present. And stop you from going into what could be an amazing future,
Definitely.
Because so many people have experienced real trauma in periods of time, and some people have moved on and become very successful from that, in recognizing that healing is your responsibility. It isn't about somebody else.
And it's an opportunity as well.
Oh, there's that word again, opportunity.
If we start looking at these things as more as opportunities to go forward, instead of like, oh my God, I've got this thing that I have to do and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing that I get to do. Here's the thing that I get to do. Here's some movement forward I get to make. That's a very, very different space to be in. Very, very different energy.
Yeah. And it's good energy. Yeah. It's so much lighter when you start to feel that motion again, and like, there's been periods of time I've been stuck in that whirlpool, and it is exhausting. And when you come out of it and you're just like, oh, why didn't I just do that sooner? What took so long? But the time is the time, and you take what you get from it. And there's so many different layers of wisdom that come from experiences. And I think sometimes we speed up so much through our lives to get through things. We aren't taking the time to really integrate all of that learning to make it become wisdom, to kind of avoid the potholes the next time around as different things come through, and just really start to enjoy the experience and the journey. So, right. So what's the next one? See the first two.
It's clear. Because ultimately, I mean, I had this phrasing, this wording kind of came to me in a podcast I was recording last week when I was asked about time. I actually came to see that time is a combination of three things. It's an illusion with three aspects: the truth of the present moment, the memories of the past, and the expectations of the future. That's all that time is. It's a combination of memories, now, and expectations. But the thing is, by the time we've gone into the now to think about what the now is, it's already a memory and in the past. Because the now, in truth, has no stories, has no narratives, has nothing other than just presently being. And the expectations of the future are grounded in the seeds that we're planting now by what we're doing now, including how we view the memories of the past.
Yeah.
So what we're doing with clearing is we're just dropping the expectations and the memories for a while, allowing the wisdom from them to feed us as we are present enough to make choices to deliberately, consciously choose what those expectations are of the future, because everything that's unfolding for us is the reanimation of those now based thoughts, those now based seeds of what the future is going to be. Future doesn't have an opinion, it just follows the expectation of what we think it's going to be. Oh, you expect I'm going to be crap. I think I'm going to be abundant. Okay, I'm going to be lonely. Okay, I'm going to be full of love. And it's only by us being present enough to choose what we're connecting to that we can actually choose what we're connecting to and therefore experience what we desire versus replaying and rehashing what we've been living up until now.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think when people think like that, the universe doesn't judge you. The universe is impersonal. It doesn't have an attachment to whatever decision you make. It's just gonna go with it.
It's like in unlimited wishes, but we keep filling it up with, oh, I know, but I've been playing this one out for the last 10 years. Let's just play this one again. Or you could have something different, but if that's what you want, here you go.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately, what becomes our lives.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I just had that conversation, actually. I just said, I want to do next year a bit differently.
Yes.
Please. We don't need a groundhog 2020.
No.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So yeah, but again, last year was an interesting time for people to kind of rejig and reconfigure things, and as even under stress,
if they were open to
time for that. Yeah.
If they were open to that. And one of the things I think that we will be really empowered by spending some more time doing is just owning that we're human, and sometimes we getting what we're getting because that's unconsciously what we desire, and people don't want to hear that. What do you mean? I didn't desire to be robbed. I didn't desire to be sexually assaulted. I didn't desire for this. I'm not talking about what you want. I'm talking about what's going on at an unconscious level. And when, as humans, we step up and realize that we're not often deeply cognizant of what's going on at an unconscious level, we're not really aware of what's been coming in and cooking up those innate deep desires that are ultimately becoming our life. Because even when we consciously choose something through an intention or some other form of disruption, unless it's accepted at an unconscious level, it's not going to play out. There must be an unconscious acceptance, because that filter is not something that you can hack. The unconscious mind moves at 10,000 to 10 million times the speed of the conscious mind. There has to be a harmonious resonance between the two, the conscious and the unconscious. Otherwise, we just get stuck.
I have a wingnut question for you. And I call it that because it's just something that occurred to me, because we haven't had a telly since 1996, right? And but we watch films, and mostly kids films because I have young kids. And I find as they get older, my teenager wants to watch these really dystopian films, and people who are really addicted to crime thrillers and dystopian films and violent films and stuff like that. And that is constantly informing their subconscious. So would that also be part of, you have your subconscious of just your daily life and the things you take on and the things that you're not aware that you're thinking about, but then all the other stuff that you're always taking in by the stuff that you're watching, whether it's the news, whether it's films or certain types of films that are breeding that consciousness level at a subconscious level. Does that make sense? I know it's a bit of a crazy question.
No, I'm with you, because for me, it's all about the ongoing pollution.
But yes,
of our inputs, right? So for me, every single input has everything that we've ever experienced through our five senses is programmed into our unconscious mind. Some of it has a foothold and has something, and some of it doesn't. Some of it we have a conscious relationship to, and some of it we don't. But every single one of it is either disrupting or informing whatever the pattern is right now. We are always, every moment, either confirming, reaffirming, and supporting a narrative, or we're disrupting and offering a space for change. When we want something new, we have to be deliberately consistent in ensuring that the inputs are supporting that new, because the mind doesn't have an opinion. It just goes on the basis of what the overriding inputs are. So when my overriding inputs are dystopia, sadness, lack, poverty through my conversations, my inner talk and external talk, the gossip, the podcasts, the radio, the TV, the news,
Yeah.
the books, all of these inputs through my senses are either supporting or disrupting the current narrative. And if they are of a negative bias, of which I think they say 80% of the world is operating on a negative bias, then I'm
Yeah.
supporting that negative bias and maintaining that momentum. Some people then turn around and do positive thinking for a week, or they'll meditate for a week, or they'll do something for a week, or maybe 3 months, God forbid. And they're like, my life hasn't changed. Well, you've got, even if you're 15 years, you'd have 15
Yeah.
years of programming to declutter. It might take more than a week of doing a Hadi Hud Kundalini prosperity meditation every morning. Give yourself time to complete that internal reset and keep supporting it,
Yeah.
because it can take 66 days, I think, to build a new habit, and 1 day to break it, and then you're back to square one again. So
It's amazing,
consistency.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Hey,
I
I
think
thought it was like
consistency.
21 days. When did it become 66?
It's somewhere between the two, depending on who you are. But ultimately, you need a minimum of those 21 days. But the average person, they're showing it takes 66 or something like that,
Yeah.
or 61 or 60 something like that.
Yeah. We always kind of go with 90-day turnovers with things, because by
Mm-hmm.
the time you've hit a 60-day and then
Mm-hmm.
66 days, you've kind of just given into the fact that this is your new life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all good.
It's all good.
All
It's all
good.
good. I mean, I do that with the smaller thing, and one of the hacks I always give people that I'm working with: don't even tackle it as a 90-day project. Tackle it as a day at a time or a week at a time.
Yeah.
I've got a free accountability group that I run over on Telegram, and we set declarations every Sunday, and we support each other with keeping up with those declarations. And we don't adjust the declaration until we're consistently doing it week in, week out. Then we add to it. And we
Yeah.
add depth to it, not so much that we overwhelm ourselves. I've been back on my fitness tip and just adding 5 more push-ups to my daily regimen every week. Not I'm going to go to gym 20 times a day or blah blah blah. No, just add another 5 push-ups.
Yeah. Brilliant.
That's it.
Easy, achievable.
Easy, achievable, and I don't miss it now because it's just a week at a time. And if I
Yeah.
decide at the end of the week I don't want to do it anymore, I mean, my forward tendency type is a rebel, so I need to really, you know.
Why does that not surprise me?
so, so like every week I get to choose: do I want to do this week? Does
Yeah.
the outcome of this still matter to me? Yeah, then I hop on and do it, and that gives me that leverage on a day-to-day basis to make sure that I do get it done.
Yeah. So basically, the answer to my question is yes. What you feed your brain informs your
Consistently.
subconscious,
Yeah, and that
and
sets the framework for
therefore
what we can get.
does kind of draw odd things into your life that you might not be aware of where those things are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. So yeah, I'm just fascinated by that at the moment, just kind of watching, because the conversations we're having in the office are constantly about, are you watching this? Are you adding more healthy food to your diet? Are you taking
Mm-hmm.
extra care about this? And, to empower people basically,
Mm.
at the moment. So, and yeah, it's interesting because the things that we're posting on our Facebook page are all those positive things. We want you to kind of have a look at this podcast, have a look at what so-and-so is doing over here. Are you taking your
Mm-hmm.
vitamin D? Are you getting some fresh air? All of those things, so
Mm-hmm.
informing the subconscious on those levels and looking at positive movies or funny movies. We put a list of movies that made you laugh out loud, and it's amazing how different people's sense of humor is.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Me,
can't say
me and
much.
Olga have this all the time. It's like, this is funny for you, I guess. We're
Yeah.
gonna be. She's got this thing with Adam Sandler. I don't, I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. I'm just like, really, Adam Sandler?
So I like Minions. I'm like, I mean, those guys were on crack when they wrote that. I think it's so funny.
Well, definitely.
It's like,
There's a few comedies out there. Like, there was definitely something illegal running through your system when
yeah,
this,
definitely.
like,
And
SpongeBob
these are like kids'
SquarePants.
films, right? It was like,
Yeah, look at
oh my gosh.
SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, really?
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, some of those laugh out loud things and just kind of keeping people in that headspace of really creating joy and a higher vibration rather than kind of sinking down into that kind of dystopian future and, where your fears are at the moment,
Mm.
So good. Next one.
Oh, next one, number 3. So I got frightfully excited with my hand movements there, lost my headset. The next one is gratitude. So with gratitude, what we're doing is we're effectively connecting to the outcome that we want now. So we've created that clean space of the now. So what seeds are we going to plant in the now? And Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership.
Receivership.
Good old Miss Dr. Joe
Dr.
Dispenza says,
Dispenza. Yeah.
and other scientists have done a lot of research into what happens in the brain when we're in a space of gratitude. Ultimately, the neural pathways that allow us to connect to the experience, the neural pathways that allow us to make the choices that will actually lead to the experience. The energetic resonance allows us to sharpen the experience because we've seeded it through the neural pathways, which affects our resonant magnetic field. All of that comes from just being grateful for something in advance. And one of the big aha moments for me on my journey of creating beyond intention was that the, the model that I had that preceded this, that worked and then stopped working, had me keeping an attitude of gratitude, like being grateful for life and being an attitude of gratitude and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it's like, wait, let's just bring that before something even shows up. Maintain that connection to something as a present reality through mental rehearsal, through deep gratitude, through mind play, through tools to keep connecting to that experience, through embodying it in any way that I can. That just hardwires your reality to accept this is a part of it, and it's really, really magical to see this work on a consistent basis.
Yeah. I think one of the things to add in with that too is that it's not often enough to just to think about it. And we do a gratitude challenge every year in our office. And I think this is year 10 now. And everybody gets a little book and they have to fill out 3 things they're grateful for 30 days. And it's interesting. So many people are so resistant. And I'm like, come on, you can do it. You can think of 3 things that you're happy about in your life. And it's interesting because the stories that come out of it at the end of the 30 days, like, oh, so this magical thing happened or that thing happened. And it's really nice to listen to some of those things because they start to think about the things that matter to them in their lives. And the other thing we talk about is that it's one thing to say, oh, I'm really grateful for my house. I'm really grateful for my kids. I'm really grateful for this and that. But the feeling when you sit there and connect to that feeling of it, and, if I'm sitting there and really kind of almost doing like a heart math grateful thing, when you're sitting there really breathing, setting the intention, bringing yourself back into coherence in your heart, and you start to think about these things, and then you can really feel that connection, and it brings tears to your eyes. And it's such a powerful thing to do because you're really deeply connecting to it on so many different levels, which isn't just inside of you, it's everywhere around you. And all those other things that you're that are involved in your life or that you want to draw into your life.
I mean, we are setting the landscape for what we're able to receive based on where we're at. And saying I'm somewhere and being somewhere are 2 different things. Saying thank you and being grateful are different things, because words are just a medium of communication of energy. The integrity of the energy is more important than the words. I can look at somebody with disdain, or I can look at them with love. I can say whatever I want. The energy is what's going to be transmitted. The words just make it easier for me to understand that, because we've moved away from our true nature as intuitive beings that don't require words to communicate. So I can say anything that I want, unless I'm truly feeling it, like you said, in the heart, then I'm not connecting to it, and I'm not going to get the results I'm seeking.
Yeah. And people feel it too when you're talking to them and stuff, that definitely. If you say something to somebody that's actually quite sincere, it almost stops them in their tracks because they feel the energy of not just the words. So which is lovely. I think gratitude is the thing that's one of the most important things, but so underrated, for a simple thing, it's a wonderful practice to get into. And it is a practice, because otherwise you just forget and you just kind of go on with things and move on without actually.
Go back to the program that you're running on before. And if the program that you're running on before was working, then you wouldn't be looking to do something different. So the very fact that
damn it,
you're trying to do something different means that it wasn't working. So maybe try doing something different. And that may be as simple as just being consciously in a space of gratitude for something that may not have happened yet, but it will only happen if you're able to connect with it. And gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to connect to it.
Yeah, it is, and it's something you just have to keep doing, because it's like anything. You can't just go to the gym once and expect to come out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Really.
Even if I put it on my vision board, would it not just manifest into my reality and become my physique with my glutes and my things? No?
Well, it might if you're Joe.
Maybe.
So it quite hasn't worked that way for me.
Yes, me neither.
I still have to
Exactly.
do the work.
Yes, let you do the work.
Still have to do the work. Yeah. So, okay. And the last one, number 4.
Listen. And I think listen is really powerful in a subtle way because it's not an active thing, it's just a way of moving through life. And that's thinking and feeling with awareness. That's it. Thinking and feeling with awareness. So recognizing that I'm human and I'm going to have my down days, I'm going to have
Yeah.
my polarity, my natural polarity within things. Just remembering to course correct. Maxwell Maltz in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics, reminds us that the guiding missile doesn't go from point A to point B in a straight line. It always veers off course. And the guidance missile course corrects it so that it stays on course and gets to where it needs to be. Listening is being in a process of being my own guidance system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, I'm feeling a bit anxious. Let me go back to the top, accept responsibility, clear the path, reconnect to what I want, and then tune in. Oh, I'm really on the ball today. Let me celebrate that. Go back to the beginning, step into remembering that I'm the one that did this, go back to and keep reaffirming it and consistently building that relationship to the outcome that I want to step into. Um, Listen is the space for me to just make those touch ups when my inevitable humanity kicks in and I have an off day or have an off hour or whatever, and just to keep me on general course.
Yeah. And that's so important. Again, listening to yourself and being in tune with yourself, which
Mm-hmm.
are, again, it's another practice, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just kind of snow plowing your way through life and just kind of going and going and going, taking those moments, just kind of go, okay, I need to do a bit of self-reflection here. I need to have another second thought about this and then
Mm-hmm.
course correct. Yeah. And I think the refractory period that you experience with different emotions, in particular, this whole past year, there's been lots of different things going on and balancing different people's emotions and different energies. For me, that kind of course correction and just working on that refractory period and what are the things that I need to do to recenter myself, whether it's stepping outside to take a few deep breaths, throwing myself in an ice cold sea,
Mm-hmm.
and those kind of things. And that listening and that course correction, again, it's because I suppose for me, I'm very internally driven and
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough money in the world to entice me to do something if I just don't want to do it.
No.
No. And it's actually taken me a long time to learn that about myself. It's like, if I just want to do something, I'm just going to go and do it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need any incentives. I don't need rewards. I don't need anything. If I want to do
Mm-hmm.
something, I'm there,
It's going to be done.
whereas if I don't want to do it,
Doesn't matter.
like, you will be like literally having to drive through the mud to get me to do something I just don't want to do. So yeah, and that's with everything, whether it's meditation or whether it's going out for a walk or going to the gym or, or going for a sea swim. There are mornings I'll
Mm-hmm.
get up, I'm like, oh, I don't know, but I'll put my bikini on under my clothes, take the dog for a walk. And if I get down to the sea and I got to go in, I go in,
Mm-hmm.
but there's other times I go down. I'm like, nope,
Not for me today.
not for me today. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of going with it. Yeah. So, but yes, listening. Yeah. And I like that. It's very concise, very simple, direct ways to kind of work with
Mm-hmm.
yourself and your subconscious and the way you think and learning to take the time to actually create those things,
Mm.
because again, when you're just kind of going and going and going, you're not thinking, you're not reflecting. You are the program. You're not even in the
Mm-hmm.
program. You are the program. So
Exactly.
yeah, taking ways to change that. And links to the idea of prosperity.
Mm-hmm. Prosperity is just an outcome, and an outcome is just a choice. And any choice can be reached if we accept, clear,
Yeah.
connect to it, and then course correct. Anything's achievable. That whether it's prosperous relationships, prosperous health, prosperous
Yeah.
quality of meaning, quality of life, abundance, whatever, it's just a choice. And that choice, when moved towards consciously through this model, is something that will never fail to be something that you achieve.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. It's light, it's fun, it's simple. And it, like with anything in life, it just takes that little bit of effort to be consistent with it and to see those outcomes start to unfold with your efforts. Yeah, it's beautiful that way. So there we go. Well, thank you very much. That was really fun.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed it. It's been great I always love talking about beyond intention in different contexts with different people and having different conversations, because it even deepens my resonance with the model and reminds me, oh yeah, this stuff is real. I should stick with that.
So, well, you have it all recorded now, so it's all there for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
But thank you so much for joining us, and I'll put all the links for you down below. So if anybody wants to get in touch or join the Facebook group and get to know Dan, Dreamy Dan, a little bit better, then that will be great.
Thank you so much. And for all my listeners that tuned into this, be sure to check out the rest of the series. There's something beautiful here, giving people the opportunity to connect with something that's different from the general narrative right now. And I really feel it'll be support for you to tune in.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Okay, well, I'll talk to you soon. There we go.